So starting with SB 135, which would create a comprehensive statewide earthquake early warning system in California. As many of us know, those of us who were born and raised here, anybody who has lived for any significant amount of time in California knows that not only do we have a tremendous history with large earthquakes in our state, but the likelihood of another big one makes it a when, not an if question. And while we cannot prevent earthquakes from happening, we can certainly do more to better prepare ourselves to minimize injury, minimize fatalities, and minimize damage. The system this bill seeks to move forward would effectively use technology to detect earthquakes and give the public upwards of 60 seconds of warning before the violent shaking would start. And while 60 seconds may not sound like a lot of time, when it comes to simple questions like taking cover, gathering your children, moving into a safer place, pulling to the side of the road or off of a bridge, for a surgeon removing the scalpel during a surgery, for folks working in construction to lower cranes, for powering down critical infrastructure or industrial machines, 60 seconds can make a world of difference. Now, the cost of deploying such a system, which has already been demonstrated to work, is approximately $80 million, according to experts. Some people say, well, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but have you seen the budget lately? We haven't ruled out several sources of funding, not just state sources, but potentially federal sources, as applications for grants have been submitted, but we're all too familiar with fiscal cliff discussions and dynamics over the course of the last several months. We certainly haven't ruled out any public-private partnerships, as private entities have come forward wanting to be part of a coordinated and collaborative effort to move a system forward. But however we end up deciding this, working in collaboration with CalEMA and the governor's office, we know that technology is proven to work. We know that technology can provide tremendous benefit to the public, and we should move forward sooner rather than later. With me in support is Richard Allen, Director of the Berkeley Seismological Laboratory, and others here in support.
Good morning, Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Jason Murphy on behalf of the University of California Office of the President. We are pleased to be here today in strong support of this bill. There's no question that California remains vulnerable to a seismic event in the future. It's one of the reasons why we have researchers and scientists throughout our system working intently on issues of preparing for and dealing with and recovering from earthquakes. Specifically, the UC Berkeley Seismological Lab has been a founding member of the Integrated Seismic Network for many years, and we also have UC San Diego, UC Santa Barbara, the Berkeley Lab, and the Lawrence Livermore Lab also playing a role as contributing members. I'd like to introduce at this time Director Allen from the UC Berkeley Seismological Lab to present his testimony.
Mr. Chairman, Committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify at this hearing about bringing earthquake early warning to the state of California. The risk of earthquakes in this state is great, as we all know, a 99% likelihood of a major damaging earthquake over the course of the next 30 years. The southern San Andreas Fault is wrapped around Los Angeles. The Hayward Fault runs directly beneath the East Bay. These are the two most hazardous faults in California, and there's about 25 million people at risk from those faults. So the risk is very great, it's very real. I'm the director of the Berkeley Seismological Laboratory, and the Seismological Laboratory has been involved in research and development of implementation methodologies for earthquakes for a very long time. Berkeley installed the first seismometer in the Western Hemisphere in 1887, and Professor Lawson was the person who led the study after the 1906 earthquake that associated earthquakes with faults and indeed identified and mapped the San Andreas Fault. We think now is the time to take this step and to use earthquake early warning as an additional approach to reduce the impact of future earthquakes. Earthquake early warning is new, but it's very much a proven technology. Early warning was issued in the magnitude 9 Tohoku-oki earthquake about 2 years ago. People in the city of Sendai got a warning and were able to take cover. People were able to slow and stop trains. Manufacturing processes were stopped. School children took cover under desks and reduced the overall impact of what was obviously a very significant event. The California Integrated Seismic Network is a collaboration between the California Emergency Management Agency, the California Geologic Survey, UC Berkeley, Caltech, and the USGS, and is also in partnership with other groups including PG&E, Southern California Edison, San Diego Gas and Electric, Calpine, CalEnergy, and BART. And this group, California Integrated Seismic Network, has been running a demonstration earthquake early warning system for more than a year at this time. We use data that streams in from about 400 seismic sensors to detect earthquakes and issue alerts, all in a matter of seconds. In the recent Anza earthquake in Southern California, there was more than 40 seconds of warning to the city of Los Angeles. In a smaller earthquake that was located close to the epicenter of the Loma Prieta earthquake, we issued 24 seconds of warnings to the city of San Francisco and Oakland. So in a repeat of the Loma Prieta earthquake, there would be about 24 seconds of warning in the Bay Area. For really big earthquakes, the warning can be greater, as the Senator mentioned, up to a minute's worth of warning in both Northern and Southern California. And we have a group of about 20 seismologists and engineers who are actively working on this project to improve the system and implement these improvements on a weekly basis. So we're now ready to leverage the state and federal investment in these seismic networks to bring a public, openly available early warning system to the state. Already, BART is using the output from the demonstration system to start to slow and stop trains, as they believe this will help potentially prevent fatalities in a major earthquake by reducing the likelihood of derailments of trains. The proposed bill will build out these networks to create a fast and accurate and a robust early warning system for everybody. The USGS is willing to take the lead role in issuing the alerts in partnership with the state and university partners that I just mentioned a moment ago. There's also a need for a strong public-private partnership. There's no question about that. In order to distribute the alerts, we need the collaboration with cell phones, internet providers, TV, radio. Private sectors needed to provide specialized alert to high-end users, and also to add instrumentation to improve the quality of the alerts at specific high-sensitivity locations. So in summary, the earthquake threat in California is significant as the strain is building on the faults on a daily basis. It's not an if, it's a when the earthquake will occur. I would suggest that if we had an earthquake this afternoon, we would build this early warning system next week. So I would like to see us not miss this opportunity, and I hope you'll be able to support this bill. Thank you very much.
Please proceed. The chairman had to go to another committee.
Very good. My name is Hal Daly, and I'm the Director of Government Relations in the Office of the President of the California Institute of Technology in Pasadena. We have been a private research university for over 115 years. We are, in fact, a longtime partner with the U.S. Geological Survey, over 40 years, hosting their Southern California headquarters. We've also been a partner in the California Integrated Seismic Network with the University of California at Berkeley. It is our hope that you will look upon SB 135 as something that has to happen. The only question is when. The most important thing to do here is to thank Senator Padilla. He has had the foresight to look down the road and see the inevitable, which is that we are going to have a major earthquake, another major earthquake in California. The last major advance that was made with public investment in the technology of earthquake monitoring and analysis came about in the late 1990s as a result of the Northridge earthquake, and that is called the Shake Map. That was able to leverage some state money, some private money, as well as federal money to create what essentially gives public safety and public health officials an idea of where the heaviest shaking has been from a major quake in less than 5 minutes when it used to take 30 days. This is another step in that direction, and we hope that you'll look seriously at it. I've been working 25 years to try and leverage federal money to support what has been a very modest investment by the state and keep the earthquake monitoring system that goes statewide as robust as possible. I think this is another good step in that direction, and I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. David Jones, Emmanuel Jones and Associates. We'd also like to echo the thank you to the Senator Padilla for introducing the bill. I'm here today on behalf of the Mayor of Pasadena, Mayor Bill Bogard, in support of the bill, and also the City of Burbank, asking for an aye vote. Thank you.
Mr.
Mr. Chairman and members, Jerry Haliva on behalf of Seismic Warning Systems, a private network of earthquake sensors. As many of you know, I was a staff person here in the legislature for about 20 years, and an area of expertise was on disaster preparedness and emergency services. What I learned and what I think the legislature has learned is exemplified by CalEMA putting together this working group, and that is that top-down government in emergency preparedness and response doesn't really work as effectively as bottom-up. The locals and the regionals are the most important factors in emergency and disaster preparedness, and as such, all of our emergency and disaster response is based on a local to regional to state. The model that's being used in SB 135 is much more of the Japanese or Mexican model, and we appreciate very much Senator Padilla bringing this issue forward and also the acknowledgement of the importance of a public-private partnership, because we think the institutional alerts that can be provided through a private network. You've received some support from the Coachella Valley and Imperial Valley, where these private networks are currently being explored. We think that's a good partnership. We again applaud the Senator for moving forward with this effort, but we want to ensure that local regional partnership is part of this effort. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair and members, Mark Smith on behalf of the American Council of Engineering Companies of California, representing 1,200 firms and 25,000 professional engineers in the state of California. In very strong support of this bill, we want to thank the Senator for bringing it forward.
Are there witnesses in opposition? Seeing none, questions from the committee? Senator Nielsen.
Of any of the folks here testifying in support, have these named agencies not long been engaged in preparing and having a long-range plan? What's new? Seems like this is a no-brainer. They should have been working together for decades. Have they been?
If I may, Senator Nielsen,
please.
as the author of the bill, the answer is yes. The various agencies involved in this discussion have long been talking collaboratively when it comes to the general issues of earthquake or other disaster preparedness and response. But the underlying technology that makes an early warning system possible is only a relatively recent development. And so therefore the specific concept of an early warning system, something that can give us that 30, 45, 60 seconds, if not more, of warning depending on your proximity to the epicenter, is a recent phenomenon. And we've seen it demonstrated to work in California in its demonstration phase. We've seen it work in full application in Japan and elsewhere, and there's no reason why we shouldn't move quickly to deploy it here in California.
Well, your point is absolutely well taken, but I would argue these same folks should be all over that, because this new technology has been developing and they should have been working on a plan. It's too bad you have to thump them on the head to get them to...
No, Senator Nielsen, just not completely in their defense, but in large part in their defense. They've been thumping on us for attention and funding. They've been thumping on our congressional delegation and federal agencies for attention and funding. So I know you don't want to be sitting with me after the next big one if we haven't deployed it, the system, asking ourselves why not.
No, that's the point. And Senator, a couple of questions I'm now going to raise. I apologize because I just reviewed this last night. I did not have time to assimilate what was even going to be considered.
But I can assure you this will not be gutted and amended into a different subject matter. So
right.
It's going to be okay for you to vote on this one.
Thank you, sir. Well, here's just a thought or suggestion. I'm concerned about just giving these folks an open-ended deal. There should be some definitive time by which they have to prepare this and complete it. Could we seek an amendment to that effect?
Absolutely, and I believe the specifics of what that time frame or maybe stages of deployment would be is what's currently being developed under the leadership of CalEMA, but through the stakeholder process that the various witnesses attested to and are participating in. So during the course of the legislative process, we'll be inserting those specifics.
As the bill proceeds, and that's correct? Okay. That comforts me. Then it would seem also that there should be some sunset of this requirement at such time that it has been completed. I mean, My fear, they're going to staff up for this, build their budget, it'll be completed, all those staff still hang around. I'm interested in something as a control. Maybe we can deal with that in the fiscal.
I understand, and maybe a review in future years would be appropriate, but let me remind us of this. I mean, to build out a system like this, there's the development, the deployment phase, but once it's up and running, we're still going to have an ongoing commitment to it in terms of staffing and monitoring and upgrades as technology evolves as well.
Okay. And just another point was raised in testimony here. Would it not be advantageous to include some private sector participation in some manner here? Add verbiage to that effect.
Again, the language of the bill certainly leaves the door open to that, and they have been involved in the stakeholder process, and we envision their ongoing participation.
Okay. So you're willing to work on some kind of language of time certain that this report must then be completed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions from the committee? Senator Padilla, I have the concern. I had a constituent in Compton. They're in the business of doing early warning systems. I think they now supply a couple of schools and other places. And the public-private partnership aspect, they're a private company who provide, I don't know very much about the technology, but they're currently contracting in this, and their note, and I did not bring it, I apologize, and I'll get it to you, was that if all the money went to the top and they're providing the service, whether or not they could integrate what they do with what would possibly be done, and I don't know enough about it to make an intelligent comment other than to say that if it's going to have a potential for some public-private apparatus at work, I mean, they're not in the research phase, they're much more into the application of the system itself. They currently represent, and I may be off here, that they do a couple of school districts where they have been able to put in some device that works some way. I don't know how much time it provides. I don't know how it works. I don't know how it would differ from what would perhaps come from here, but as long as it wouldn't be locked, that it was a totally public system, and that some of the work, the installation work or the systems themselves might be done by private contractors. I think that would I mean, similar to where I guess where Senator Nielsen was coming from. I guess there are people in California who already do this work, and I wouldn't want us to do something in statute that squeezed out people who are already in the field.
Absolutely. Happy to meet with them, talk to them, get to know their business and their technology better. It could be that they have a parallel technology that is robust enough to be of value to school districts or other companies are already installing their technologies in firehouses, for example, to make sure doors don't get jammed shut in the event of an earthquake. But I think that the question is this. I mean, either they have their own network of sensors deployed throughout the state already, or maybe they are operating sort of a localized technology that may have a limitation to the information and value that it can provide, or maybe they're writing the sensors that have already been deployed as part of this state California Integrated Seismic Network that's already out there, which we want to enhance through this project and others. I guess I would liken it to all those app developers out there making a gajillion dollars. They don't have their own cell phones or cell phone technology. They don't have their own wireless networks. They're just an app riding on something else. So what we're talking about here is, in essence, the backbone of a seismic network, to the extent that others can tap into the data and maybe warnings and create the app for it. That could be for school district, could be for first responders, could be for truck drivers, could be for stay-at-home moms or anybody else. More power to them. We've got to get that information out there because we're capable of collecting it now and disseminating it on a usefully timely basis, and that's what this bill seeks to do.
Well, let me do this. The committee is, what's our pleasure here today? Moved by Senator Hernandez. I think we got votes, so you're going to mess up. So
no, Senator Wright, I just wanted to your point, sir. I just returned from a trip to Japan, where the Shinkansen, the most important pieces of infrastructure in Japan, actually relies on a private network of sensors. They work side by side with JMA as a national model, but the system you're talking about of providing a network can be done privately as it's done with Shinkansen. not completely publicly as the JMA does, just for information.
Okay. Senator Padilla, you get the last
I
word.
appreciate the questions and discussion. I asked her, I vote.
Open the roll.
Motion is do pass and re-refer to the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Water. Wright?
Aye.
Wright, aye. Nielsen?
Aye.
Nielsen, aye. Berryhill? Calderon? Canella? Aye. Canella, aye. Correa? Aye. Correa, aye. De Leon? Galgiani? Aye. Galgiani, aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hernandez, aye. Liu? Padilla?
Aye.
Padilla, aye.
7-0. We'll hold the roll open. Senator Padilla, you also have file item 14721.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I'd like to present this bill, which seeks to manage the impacts of the potential closure of the Hollywood Park racetrack and would also clean up California code. So the language of the bill currently would clean up